Help support this channel and get early access to videos, plus exclusive content and patrons-only live discussions by becoming a member at patreon.com/BrucePoinsett. This is the Working Artist, Working Title Project. I'm your host, Bruce Poinsett, and I've got a special guest in studio with me, Mr. DJ Klyph, DJ, curator, champion of the scene, just great guy.
Oh, Brett, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, man. It's so dope to be here in this situation with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been too long. Like, I know I got to interview you back in like the scanner days. So that'd be like 2012, 2013.
Yep.
I was actually looking for that article. I think they took it down, which
Okay.
Unfortunate, but hey, we get to recreate some things here.
No doubt, man. And yo, I just want to say before we even get too far into it, appreciate you showing love, man. I see you be rocking the DJ Klyph T on some of the situations you do. So thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. And we're actually going to talk about marketing and merch as well.
Okay.
Because we're going to get into the artistic journey, but also just talk about things like marketing, getting the word out there, just the logistics of how you make all this stuff happen. Because again, you're everywhere.
I'm trying, bro. I'm absolutely trying.
Yeah, just for me, like on the journalist end, one of the things that I just admire about what you do is you probably have one of, if not like the deepest interview archives in the city when it comes to local hip hop. Like, if someone wants to like go in and see what's the story of Portland, like at all the different angles, at all the different, just styles, artists, moments in time, go through Welcome to the Neighborhood, go through Cliff Notes, go through this stuff. Like, I don't know if someone was telling me a while ago about the Seattle Hip Hop Museum, and asking, what's going on in Portland. I don't know if anyone's like approached you or you thought about just like, I don't know, like institutionalizing all this in like a museum type way. But
yeah, there's some really great programs that exist now in the city, and I have been in conversation. There's a group called the Albina Music Project, and they've done an amazing job of looking into the archives of the history of Portland music. And a lot of the information that they have right now and some of the projects that they've done right now have really been focused on really soul, R&B, jazz, from like talking about the archives of Portland. And they've done really some great stuff in terms of helping a lot of artists who at the time when they created this music didn't necessarily have access to recouping some of the monies that came from that. And I've been in conversation with them about wanting to do something similar for the Portland hip hop scene in terms of looking back at flyers and looking back at any video footage and bringing that to a lot of folk who really aren't up on that. So conversations are definitely being had. There's definitely interest in doing some of that. But you know how it is, man. It takes many hands and time and trying to figure some of those things out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think about it. Like, I recently did literacy as like a residency for this hip hop literacy class. Shout out to Desmond Spann. And it's interesting, kind of like talking with students now as far as like perspective, because like we're in this moment where Amine is like this national figure,
right? International
figure. We put some respect on his name. And like when I think about comparing it to what was that when I was in my age, for example. So I remember Lifesavers, and specifically on that ESPN show Playmakers, which is so infamous. The NFL got it taken down. Look up that history if you're watching this later.
Word.
But yeah, seeing that moment and seeing like right after Spirit and Stone, where it's like, oh wow, this is like the rest of the country feels this too.
Yeah.
But it's always, I think, just documenting that history, because when people tell me about, like the U Crew was before my time, but when I hear those stories, I hear people talk about like what it meant to them. I hear someone like Verse talk about what the U Crew meant to him in Portland.
Yes.
Like that history is so important, and it's, even beyond the music, it just transcends all these different factors.
And I think it is important, especially in the times that we're in, when we have so much access now to art that's created all over the planet. And because we have so much content that comes at us on you know, it's not even a weekly basis anymore. When you would think about like the blog, the era of the blogs, now it's literally minute by minute. There's new content that's coming at us, and so I think it is important to make sure that we're taking time, spending time with art, because it's become almost disposable, unfortunately. And there is so much great art that has been created that that gets passed over. But we're recording this in 2023, and there are moments in my walks during life now where people say, "Wait, there's hip hop in Portland." I mean, what a shame, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I do appreciate the love, man, and in terms of what I've been able to do, what I've just been blessed to do, in terms of talking to folk who can share that history via the radio show, via the podcasts, because those stories, they're so rich, man, and they are the foundation for where we are today locally, but then even greater than that, as you've mentioned, that, you know, we have artists who are from the town who are recognized and celebrated literally all over the planet.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a. I mean, that it's all happening. Shout out to Justin Hunt wherever he may be. But yeah, just to bring it back. Speaking of that scanner article,
Yeah.
other reason I was looking that up is because we have to do some retreading of ground with these interviews. But why don't you just talk about like when you moved to Portland?
Yeah.
And like what got you, like what really was the thing that hooked you into the local scene?
I moved to Portland in 1994, and prior to living here, I was living in New Orleans, and have I was a creative. Thought that I was going to have a career in music, so I was in the studio, and like a lot of folk, I recorded my demo. And so when I moved to Portland, I brought my reels with me, and just started going around trying to find a recording studio that maybe I could tap into, and then trying to find who I could connect with now in this, being new to the city, that I could continue what I was working on in terms of being a creative. And it's funny, I had an opportunity to connect with Omega Watts from the group Lightheaded, who were from Portland. I hadn't seen him in a number of years, and we were talking about how do we connect. And for me, it was right around that time they put up some information about doing an event in the park. So I went out and met them, and then as I started doing research, I believe it was I think it was a Source magazine, and they had a section in there about artists you should be checking for, and I saw this article in there about this group from Portland called the Lifesavers, and so I started looking at that, and then soon after that, PoHop came up, and so then I had a chance to go to PoHop, which is Portland, Oregon Hip Hop Fest, and had a chance to see Lifesavers, and it was really just looking for, like, where is the scene, like who's doing stuff that I can maybe connect with what I was doing. So that's where it started for me, and I think when you're new to a place, that can be sometimes, it can be a little challenging to just figure out how can I, where do I fit in? And I realized that for me, the transition from being an MC to maybe leaning more into production was the way to go. And shout out to Wifey, I got connected with her nephew, who was on that same path. So I just started producing for him and started DJing for shows for him, and then through my 9 to 5, I met a young man named Ed Pierce, rest in peace, who had this community television show called The Underground, and he asked if I would come through and just like DJ for artists who came through. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. So then I got to meet Cool Nuts. I got to meet DJ Fat Boy. I met Hanif, formerly known as Luck One, and asked him to come on, and that was when I started getting into media here in the city. And from there, learned about community radio, and that's where Welcome to the Neighborhood was born, when KZME, which is no longer on the air, came to be, and created this radio show that focused on the local hip-hop scene. Because I felt like that experience that I just described to you of coming into the city and trying to figure out like where are things happening, I felt, man, if I had a platform that I could bring all these local artists in, so if somebody comes in and they tune in, I can tell them, hey, these are artists you should be checking for, or these are events that you should be checking for. And shoot, 13, I don't even know how many years, at least 13 years later, still at it, bruh.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and you just talk, I mean, you kind of like alluded to it there with just like some of these, and we're going to talk about the different projects,
Yeah.
I mean, including No Request with DJ Ambush.
Oh my gosh.
Right here, where we're in the Number Studio.
Yes, sir.
But like so much of what you're doing is just like collaboration, and you're talking about we're just talking about like sort of like a prospect of trying to put something together like a museum or something. Just like how many like different hands it takes to really make these things and do them on scale.
Yeah.
And can you just talk a little bit more about just like how much does networking factor into all these different things you're able to do?
I think for me it is primary. I always tell people when I have an opportunity to work on a project with them or build with them in any way, to me it's always it's not about the music. The music is oftentimes the things that brings us together, but working on building a network has allowed me, I think, to continue to do so much of what I do, because I truly, truly believe, man, it takes community. Nobody can do it on their own, regardless of how much we want to say, oh man, from the dirt to whatever, it was all, like you really need folk to help you through the process. If for no other reason, there's going to be someone out there who has the experience or the exposure of what I'm trying to do that I simply don't have yet. And so if I can build a network of individuals, somebody who's really good at promotion, and then somebody else who's really good at connecting with venues, and then somebody else who's really, then I can just be an artist. And I have people to do some of the things that allow me to really lean into that art. And so when I look at the things that I've been able to do, for me, I tell people all the time, man, I just want to carry the crates. And it's a DJ reference, right? So back in the day, before MP3s, if a DJ was going to a show, he played vinyl, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm a DJ and I'm bringing, 8 crates of records with me, I don't carry all them crates up the stairs. So that's me. That's where I come in. Let me just carry the crates. Let me carry the crates and then let you do what you do. So long-winded answer, but that's why I feel like networking is so, so important, because it allows everybody then to excel at what they're really good at. And then we all come up. Then we all find that success. We all can really feel good about hopefully what we're doing, which is elevating the culture.
And kind of on that same vein, I was recently did an interview with Max Smith and Verbs about the thesis.
Yes.
And one of the things they're talking about is like this atmosphere where it's like, they called it like Switzerland, because basically like all these like tensions within the community, they just don't do it there. And I think when I see just the different spaces you occupy, where you have people from all across the scene, not all who like each other, but like you navigate that. You, again, just like create a platform that's really showcasing everyone out here. Yeah. And I don't know, how would I put this? Like, how do you kind of like avoid getting caught up in some of that like other stuff? If that makes sense.
No, it 100% makes sense, bro. I think some of it is I remember when I was trying to get on, when I was in New Orleans and I was trying to get on, and I mean, all glory to God, bro, but like I was nice, you know what I mean, as an MC. But it is one of those situations where you have to get in with the right people, and you have to, do all these things and navigate all these things just to give yourself an opportunity to be heard. And I just decided when I got a platform, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make it hard just to at least give people access. Now, once you get access, now you have to show and prove. So that was foundational for me. When I moved to Portland, one of the things that I noticed that was just really curious to me was that so much talent, but to a certain degree, like people just, they didn't, like, why aren't y'all rhyming together? Or why aren't y'all doing the show? It didn't make sense to me. And so I thought, all right, if I get this platform, I want to put people in a room, because maybe it's simply they're just not in rooms together to have these conversations, to have these collaborations. But I think even greater than all of that, bro, is it's just how I operate, man. Like in my day-to-day life, I'm all about positive vibes only. I mean, in everything that I do, in the media stuff, in my 9 to 5, in my family, I'm all about positive vibes only. So it is primary for me to navigate that, and you know, I've had conversations with particular artists. Why do you mess with this person? And, you know, why don't you this, that, and the third? And like, I don't go there. Because at the end of the day, man, I realize that, you know, comparatively, the smaller, but I do have a platform, right? So what am I going to promote? What am I going to push? Do I want to push negativity? Man, there's enough of that out there. You know what I mean? You don't need me to do that. There's other places that you can do that. You know, for me, it's let's find ways. Let's find ways to build into one another. Let's find ways to have the competition of rhyming. You know, a part of hip hop is competition, but let's let it be that iron sharpens iron. And if we're not careful and we lean too far into the negativity, we're gonna lose some lives. And I just, you know, I don't want to help. I don't want to be a part of helping to promote that.
That's a word.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I got deep on you, bro.
Well, speaking of that competition aspect,
Yeah.
iron sharpening iron,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is still as much of a conversation, but it felt like it's kind of like a talking point, just a lot of like hip hop media circles anyway, at least a few years ago, about like artists not really freestyling, especially like on radio programs anymore. And again, one of the like really cool things about what you do, is like you have that space where one, you have just a lot of, again, that archive of just like a lot of local artists just getting busy.
Yes.
But also part of that, I imagine, is like you got to do some work just to like get people to open up and be comfortable in the space to do that.
Yeah.
Like can you just talk about that? Like, is that perception that artists don't freestyle anymore true, or is there any truth to that?
I find it to be, you know, I think it really just depends on the artist and stylistically how they create their art. You know, I would say that a lot of the folk who are comfortable enough even coming to the radio station to do an interview oftentimes are then comfortable enough in their craft. But you know, it's hard to think about it as a sort of a holistic, like, this is where people are at. I think that the style of music that is real popular right now maybe doesn't really lean into that as much as it used to. So when I think of and I'm trying not to be the like get off my lawn guy. Like, I'm trying not to be the old head, but you know, my perception is that a lot of music that is made now is really celebratory and really leans into a lot of hooks. It's not that heavy on lyricism. So if as a creative that's not what you are about, you're really not about lyricism, then it's going to be difficult then for me to put on an instrumental and just have you spit, right? Because that's just not how you write potentially. So that's sort of my perspective of it. But I think the artists that if you go, like you mentioned, go into the archives and you see the artists who have come on and done the live verses on Welcome to the Neighborhood, or who have done the open mics on Mic Check, and then you go look at their catalog, you're like, oh, that makes sense. That is what they do. And in terms of making folk comfortable, a part of it really is that, you know, if I bring an artist, if I've invited an artist to come on the show, I'm going to make sure that they feel very comfortable and that they know that they're in a trusting environment, and I would never set them up or put them in a position where they're not going to feel good about what they're doing, you know? So that might not be the artist that I asked to freestyle. That makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, because I definitely try and like hold back my own kind of like get off my lawn feelings with that.
Yes.
Because like I do remember a time, I want to say it was Lil Wayne who was like saying, you know, I don't battle, I don't do all this, and like there was heavy criticism for him. And then fast forward to, you know, not just now, but like at least the last 10 years.
Yeah.
None of that matters.
Yep.
And you know, he's recognized.
Yep.
Where, you know, he's supposed to be recognized as a great MC.
Yeah.
So I guess the other question inherent in even talking about this is, does it matter, since it is, or like you said, is it just, it kind of depends on the artist. It depends even with because I think about some of the freestyles that were kind of like revered when I was younger.
Yeah.
I look at these Eminem verses that just happen to be the verses on the album,
Right.
and like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was dope, but isn't this the violation of the thing or whatever? But yeah, but it's ultimately about the art, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I heard an interview recently, and forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about something similar, and they were breaking down, the difference between a freestyle and then going off the head, and the idea of, um, being set up to do a freestyle, and okay, is that a written or are you just coming off the dome? And the idea is that there is a difference, and you can actually have a bunch of verses maybe that you've written, and when you get the opportunity you might do a written, and that may be why that verse then ends up on a record, versus okay, we're in the studio and you see that individual. There are a couple of folk who've done it on mic check. Only One is one of the best to do it, where give me 5 topics, give me 5 words, and can just literally go off the dome with that. I think the thing that I've learned, though, is especially as we are celebrating this year, the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I think that the thing that I've learned is a lot of it is just the evolution, and some of the things that have happened as new generations were introduced to the art form and finding ways into the art form, and even as we hear the difference in the styles of music that's created, the sort of how that is presented has changed over time, and maybe what was looked at as the rules, those rules have changed just because different people have had different exposures and different experiences. The challenge is, again, and this is the get off my lawn situation, is I feel like you do have to have certain foundational rules, like, okay, this is what we're going to do if we're going to call it hip hop. And then remembering that rap is one of the elements of hip hop, and so you can have somebody who's a rapper who's not hip hop. That's my perspective. You can have a bunch of rappers out there who are doing the rap thing, but it's not real hip hop. I know I'm gonna make some people mad, but come on, what you gonna do?
Hey, we're on mics. We're in the studio. We need some red meat. So I'm not mad at that at all. Yeah, to that end, just talk about, again, like I said before, you're everywhere out here. You got Cliff Notes Live, and I want to talk about the evolution of us as like a studio podcast.
Yeah.
Now it's doing it with a live audience.
Yeah.
I think that's so. But also, you got Mic Check. You got No Requests. Welcome to the Neighborhood. What? First off, what projects am I forgetting out here before I?
Oh my gosh, those are probably the main ones that are somewhat connected. Then there's also Fitness as a Habit, which is my lifestyle brand, and it is it's a bit of a departure. It leans more into what I do in my 9 to 5, and it's really a focus on mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. And there's a podcast associated with it. I have another podcast called Everything is Copacetic, and that one is for me. Most everything else that I do is really for that one, and Fitness as a Habit. Those are for me. Most everything else are really providing platforms, providing spaces for artists to do what they do. But no, Everything is Copacetic is really me talking to a camera and really, really expressing how I feel about things. And a lot of it is music based, but it's a chance to talk about the Trailblazers. You know what I mean? It's a chance to talk about kind of what's happening in the world. And that one is there's a couple of episodes out there that people can find, but the mainstays are the ones that you mentioned.
Yeah, so let's start off with Mic Check. Just tell people like the story of how that came together.
Yeah. Shout out to Andre Middleton of Friends of Noise. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of the event, but he invited me to be on a panel, and there were some amazing artists and record label owners and people in like real people in the industry who were at this panel, and we were talking about the music industry. And afterwards, we went into some breakout sessions, and I was leading one of the breakout sessions. And when we were done, there were two ladies who came up to me. Lori and Jennifer, love those ladies so much. And they said, we see what's happening in the city and the challenge uh, that hip hop artists are having, um, just getting venues to do shows, this, that, and the third. And we represent McMenamins, and we have all these venues. And when people think about McMenamins, they don't necessarily think about hip hop.
Right.
But what can we want to see what we can do to help. So I reached out to some folk who in my circle of influence. I reached out to my friend who ran Runaway Productions, Anthony Sanchez. I reached out to Cool Nuts, reached out to DJ OG1, and I reached out to Star Child, and just brokered a meeting and said, "Hey guys, these are some folk who got some venues. You folk know how to book events. Let me just bring a bunch of people into some rooms." And it really struck a note with Star Child, and he thought, I have this desire to do this event that really focuses on lyricism, that really focuses on this style of hip hop, and bring this platform to the city. And so he recruited Trox to be the resident DJ. Shout out to Trox, producer extraordinaire. He recruited Renee Lopez to be the photographer for the event. And he was kind enough to invite me to be in. I said, I'll be like the background curator dude. Like, I got people coming to the radio station all the time, so I'll just feed y'all. I'll feed y'all artists that way. And we did the first one at McMenamin's White Eagle Saloon, and it was a monthly event, and it was amazing, man. It was amazing for me, it felt really good because for a number of years I thought, I've got this platform, and I know I'm doing a great service to the local community. I'm providing a space for artists to get their music out, to get into ears and hands, and promote shows. But I would love to be able to do sort of that next level, because I would love to be able to, aside from people buying their records, I'd love to be able to find a space that I can provide a platform where artists can then, get money for doing shows. And so when Star invited me to be a part of Mic Check, I thought, there it is. Like, that's the thing that I've wanted to do. And so, it was, I feel like most everybody who was performing, everybody who wanted to perform at that stage, we were able to, to provide that stage and build a community and really build a thing. And Mic Check became a place that people knew about, not only in the city, but people even outside the city. Because I don't remember how many years into it, it expanded to Mic Check LA. And so it was an official situation. They were starting to do events down there. Star went down south. I think Trox went down there as well. Relationships that Trox had with Team Backpack, we were able to do a collaboration with Team Backpack and have the Team Backpack Cypher live here in Portland, and we were able to do that at the Mission Theater, another McMenamin's property. And the funny thing is, now mind you, she had done so much already, especially with her joint Catalyst, but at the Team Backpack situation, that's where a lot of people were introduced to Win. And Win did her verse, and then it was, is this Eminem's daughter, and the whole viral situation, and that came from the Mic Check situation. When I think about artists that we had other artists who came in from out of the city to perform, and it was just a beautiful situation, man. And I remember I got a call from Star. It was the day of a Mic Check, and he was like, "Man, I'm really not feeling good. I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it to host the event." And I was like, "Bet, I got you." So that was my first time. Like, now I'm coming out the back, coming out the shadows, and I hosted that event, and it was like, knock that month out, and we'll be back on it the next month. And that was it. That was the last. That was the last. The previous one would have been the last Mic Check that Star hosted before he received his cancer diagnosis. And he fought, but he didn't beat it. And so from there, it was a question of, what happens. And to keep it 100 with you, bro, I was told, in terms of some of the collaborations that we did, I was told if Star is not a part of it, we're not going to move on with this collaboration. And I get it. When you think about who he was as a promoter, who he was as a person in the city, the energy that he brought and the connections that he had, it made sense. But I felt like I wanted to keep doing it initially to just help celebrate his legacy. And it was crazy because then other people would share with me like how that was his baby, you know. Sometimes when you're in it, you don't really see that.
Right.
You know, it's like this thing that we're doing together, and it's whatever. But he was very passionate about it, and so it was valuable to me to keep it going. And now this year we're celebrating. It's been 7 years since we've been doing Mic Check, and it has now evolved even further for this thing that I feel very passionate about in terms of continuing to provide platforms, and then continuing to promote hip hop, continuing to promote lyricism, continuing to promote what Zulu said is the foundation of hip hop, which is peace, love, unity, and having fun. And so again, man, we celebrate 7 years this year of we celebrate 7 years of an event that came out of networking.
Yeah, when you talk about, like, I never got to meet Star Child personally, but we talk about those entry points into Portland hip hop. Like when I was in 6th, 7th grade, like listening to his show on 95.5.
Yep.
Came on after the Snoop show every Sunday, and like, that's the first time I heard Cool Nuts. It's the first time I heard Lifesavers. All many different like Bosco projects, but like Star Child was just just RIP Star Child.
Yes. Yeah.
Fixture beyond that. And you mentioned like the 7th anniversary. You got show August 20th coming out. You just talk a little bit about that. You've mentioned some people who are going to be there: Versatile, Cool Nuts, Fat Boy. But yeah, can you just talk about that a little bit?
So, this year being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I felt like I'm celebrating it, just Klyph. I'm just celebrating this thing, and I felt like I wanted to do something to celebrate it with the people who are in my circle of influence. And again, all glory to God. I'm so grateful that I have this platform of Mic Check. So I said, I want to do a big event, and this one is a combination. This one is a combination of building with the community. It's a combination of providing platforms for folk. But to keep it 100 with you, bruh, this one's for me. Like this Mic Check, this is for me. And so over the years, I've had an opportunity to build with somebody who I think is one of the dopest lyricists on the planet, who is Homeboy Sandman. And so having Homeboy Sandman headline this event, I feel very, very honored to be able to do that. But just as much as I dig Homeboy Sandman, Versatile is someone who, like, even though I've known Verse as long as I have, even though, like I can pick up the phone and call him, but I'm still a huge, huge fan of who he is as a creative. So to have him on this event, I feel very, very honored. And then I just started thinking about like who have I had an opportunity to build with in the past, who's shown me love just by coming on my little radio show, or who's shown me love by rocking the Mic Check, and the first part of the conversation is, I'll do it. Like how much you gonna pay me? Like those are never conversations we had, So to be able to do something at this level and say, in great part also say thank you to these individuals, to be able to have Boom Bap Project, just a celebrated Northwest hip hop crew, who just dropped their first album in 10 years and continue to build with them. Bremer Baden, who's a younger, new to the city, like I'm new to the city, or not a native here, and be able to provide that platform for him, and then to be able to build with McMenamins and bring in some collaborations and connections and support from some pretty amazing local and then even national groups. And then to be able to tap in with some other artists who have not been announced yet. So there's like the lineup is ridiculous, bro. There's a list of other performers. We're gonna probably announce that within the next month, who I'm excited to have on that stage. And then on August 20th, to be able to say, this is hip hop, man. This is Portland hip hop. This is national hip hop. Like this is what we want to do. We want you to see real high level MCs. We want you to see excellent DJing. We want to make it all ages, right? We want to educate the youth of, it's so dope that you like rhyming. Here's your bar. Shoot for that. We want to bring people together in an environment that is all inclusive. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm so looking forward to this, bro. So looking forward to it.
Man, it's a great promo.
It's gonna be fire. It really, really is, man. And everybody's invited. Tickets are available right now.
Yeah. So while we're talking about projects,
yes.
So again, we're in the Number Studio.
Oh yeah.
Gotta talk about No Request with DJ Ambush, and I'm curious how that came together, but also someone just watching along. No Request. That's like it's a loaded. That's a loaded title.
Right.
Talk about that.
It was last year. It was the summer of 2022. Dope situation in Pioneer Square, man. It was the Dome in Pioneer Square, and there were some really great events. And for me, there were two things that came out of, once again, network and my connection with the numbers that came out of last summer. And one was, I was talking with Ambush, and he was like, let's just do let's get together and just play some joints, man. And we had, Ambush and I both have radio shows on X-Ray FM. We both have radio shows on the numbers. And I think we did an event for X-Ray, and it was just so fun just playing together and playing off of one another. So let's just do that there. And so going through the process of getting that set up, and it was really I think it was Ambush and then maybe Alex. Shout out to Caso Dinero, who came up with the title No Requests. Yeah. And bro, it's just so fun for me playing with Ambush. One, because I feel like he's an amazing DJ, and for me to be able, and he makes me work. He really makes me work. Mm-hmm. And we just have so much fun doing that. And man, we should do this again. So I reached out to my connections, and once again, shout out to McMenamins. We now, every fourth Sunday of the month, we are at McMenamins White Eagle Saloon. This is a free event. It's not all ages, but it's a free event. Come through. And we decided we wanted to create an environment where it's not a party. It's just a vibe, man. It's an opportunity to celebrate an era of music that we both love. It's really golden era, so late 80s, through late 90s, early 2000s, but then also artists who are making music now that are influenced by that. But I tell people, it's an opportunity. Like if you've been saying, man, we should catch up, whatever. Like this is the place to come do it, because you're not gonna have to yell over a bunch of loud music. If you're like, man, I really need to catch up on some emails, but I don't feel like sitting in the house, bring your laptop, come through. We're just creating a vibe, and it's been. I told Ambush, bro, every fourth Sunday when we're loading in, it's therapy, because we get to just be in this space. It's about celebrating. I'm gonna say it, I'm celebrating one of the greatest eras of hip hop, period.
So then the question then becomes,
yes,
do you ever get people who come in there who still try and make requests?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And we call it No Request for two reasons. We want to create a space for you to really celebrate with us this era, but we also want to give you an opportunity to just sit back and we got you. You mean it's no different than if you were to say, okay, we're gonna go to this fine dining establishment, and we go and we sit down and there's no menus, right? Because I got you. I know what I'm doing. I'm the chef. I'm gonna cook it up for you. You just sit back. Trust me, you're gonna enjoy it. That's what we do.
Yeah, that is curation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I think about, again, just some of these like conversations and how prominent or a little less prominent they are in 2023.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being able to, like you said, creating a vibe for people. Mm-hmm. It's, especially now, like it's interesting because we're in such a democratized, like open, like it's easy to publish. I shouldn't say easy. but like it's as accessible to publish
Yes.
as ever.
Yes.
So it's just like there's so many options, and I mean I just think about how I was listening to music coming up, and actually yeah, in the hip hop lit class I mentioned before, Desmond and I were kind of talking about how like quotables kind of like stick with us more just because like we listen to the same album. Like Desmond's a little bit older than I am, but like at that time, like listening to the same album over and over and over and over and over again, that was just a thing. You memorize these things. And even with like the radio, like obviously radio is still here.
Yeah.
But you know, we're in a day of I listen to some of these like Ebro conversations, and you know, Ebro Darden also used to be in Portland for a little bit, speaking history, but you know, always complaining about the complaints he gets about being a gatekeeper. So I always think about this stuff of like, what's that kind of like line between like gatekeeping, but versus just like, no, let me, like you said, just let me create a vibe for you. Let's celebrate this.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's just, again, shout out to Ambush.
Word up.
As another thing, for me, for the, come back to journalist stuff and asking people questions though. I want to talk about Klyph Notes.
Yes.
And specifically like how the decision to kind of like bring it to a live as like a regular thing for a live audience came together. And I'll just give a little backstory about obviously there's, you know, from a journalist standpoint why I'm interested, but I remember 4 or 5 years ago I was doing this interview with a local Portland author, Mitchell S. Jackson, about, you know, he just happened to be in town. And in a conversation sort of like in between kind of like shooting, he was just talking about, you gotta start looking at these opportunities to like facilitate these live events, these live discussions. That's kind of like where a lot of things are moving for writers. So when I look at something like Klyph Notes Live specifically, I'm just like, all this tracks. And also like the energy you get from doing some of these things with a live audience versus like, I love doing it either in the studio like this over Zoom, but it's different.
Yeah.
So yeah, can you just talk about that evolution?
Yeah, I don't remember when I thought about initially maybe doing it live, but it first happened again last year. It kicked off last year. I had an opportunity to take part in the first of the Numbers Black Podcast Festival events, and we were doing it down at the Dome at Pioneer Square, and I had an opportunity to do an interview with an amazing musician here in Portland, Tyrone Hendricks, and then also someone who I've been a fan of in the Portland hip-hop scene for a while, Rashid Jamal. And to be able to sit and have a conversation like that in a room that wasn't necessarily a studio, it does just give you a different feel to be in an open space. And as I was thinking about, if we're going to do this, how I wanted to create it, how I wanted to curate it, I thought, what an amazing, and I should say some of this probably was influenced by radio, because one of the things I love to do when I have an artist on the radio is open the phone lines and have people call in and speak to the artist, because I realize, like, I can sit here and talk to you, Bruce, right? But if someone is watching this and they're thinking, oh man, I wish he would have asked him X. What if I were able to create that opportunity for the person to ask X? And so thinking about doing Klyph Notes Live, there's always a microphone in the room so that I know where I want to go with this conversation. And to be honest with you, bro, sometimes I don't know, because I don't give anybody notes. I don't say we're going to talk about this. We usually have a conversation, you know what I mean? But to be able to create space for someone who is a fan of, or maybe someone who's being introduced to my guest, to put you in that room and let you know, no, you can have access to them just like I have access to them. That's one of the things that I love about doing live events, is being able to just create that community. And we circle back around. It's just about networking, right? It's about building into one another, building with one another. So we did that. We did that joint in the Dome, and I loved it, man. And the feedback that I got was, oh, this is something that people would like. Like, people dig this. And so we took that model. Ambush was DJing for me for the interviews in the Dome, and so I tap into my network, and Ambush has DJ'd another Klyph Notes Live. DJ OG1, who's my DJ for Mic Check, has DJ'd them. Just to, again, create a vibe in the room. And then one of the other things that I love, circling back to, MCs performing, whether it be on the radio, when you come out to a Cliff Notes Live, not only are you going to hear a great interview, not because of my skill set so much as because the artist, or they're always very engaging and their stories are always great, but you're also going to get an opportunity to have a very intimate performance, because everyone who has done Cliff Notes Live, whether it was at the Show Bar when we were doing it there, or now we're doing it at Portland Center Stage at the Armory, beautiful venue. After we have a conversation, they're gonna give you a couple joints. And so then you get to celebrate. They just talked about their creative process. They just talked about, shows that they're doing. You're gonna get a private, intimate show right there, and you're not gonna have to pay to see it. It's a free situation. So, it sort of touches on so many of the other things that I have had an opportunity to build over the years, and brings it to a live stage.
Yeah, man, that's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
With all these projects, like we're talking about, just it takes a lot of time and care to put this together and make it, not just like make it happen, but make it, again, like resonate with people and be this thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole task of like telling other people about it. There is the marketing. There is, I'm kind of curious, not just when you kind of got into like really like getting the Klyph merch out, but just like, I got T-shirts, I wear them on the show. You're talking about the hat.
Yeah.
You got bags, I want to say. But can you just talk a little bit about like what goes into marketing and what goes into just trying to get the word out about, because it's not just like one thing, it is all these different projects.
Yeah, bro, for me that's the ever evolving part of doing these things, because I ask that question too, what can I do to make the marketing part of this more successful? And some of it is a challenge because everything, and be careful how I say this, not everything, 95% of what I do, the radio shows, Cliff Notes Live, no requests, these are things that people have free access to. So there's no monetary support for any of those things. So any of the marketing that you see that comes across that is included in ads comes from what I'm blessed to do with my 9 to 5, and then the support of my better half, who's off camera. Y'all can't see her right now. If you could, like, everything that I said, you wouldn't be paying no attention. You'd be like just blown away by her beauty. So she got to stay off camera. But it is a challenge, bro. Like it is. It's tough to know how do I get bodies in the building, because everyone, I can't think of any negative feedback that I've gotten for doing these events. Everyone says, "Oh, we love what you're doing with Cliff Notes. We love what you're doing with Mike Check, this, that, and the third." But I do ask that question: how do I get you, since you love it so much, since you're telling me you love it, how do I get you to tell the next person? Some of it does come from just that, having one-to-one conversations, and then taking advantage of the things that I see other people doing. It's trying to study. It's trying to study. Okay, here's an artist who I see. If I go to one of their events, the room seems to be pretty full. What are they doing? Like, let me study that, right? Because if I want to be successful at this, as I think I mentioned earlier, you have to find people who are having success, find people who have the knowledge of what you want to do, and then tap in with them. Asking, like literally asking questions. Yo, how do I do this, that, and the third? Another part is again, partnerships, networking. The venues that I have an opportunity to do events with, like, they help me with some of that. They help me get the word out. The merch thing, bro, if I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, I just like wearing my own stuff. Like, at the end of the day, man, like, if I had somebody who could do cut and sew stuff, everything that I have on would be DJ Klyph. I feel so good about what I've had an opportunity to build. I think I think the logos are dope. You know, once again, shout out to Caso De Niro. Shout out to Champagne Dwayne, who did my DJ Klyph logo. Like, I like wearing my own stuff, bro. And so then you realize it's really tough to get a one-off. So all right, let me do an order, and let me wear them. And then I got, I'm not a wealthy man, Bruce. And so then I got to slang the merch just to pay for, for what I created. So that's where that comes from. But then I don't think it's any secret, right? Every time you wear some of my merch, it lets somebody else know about me. So thank you. Thank you for, for helping me promote what I'm doing. And some of it is that, if people see my logo enough times and then they see an event with my logo on it, that may bring somebody in the building. So it's just trying to figure out, okay, how do I hit all of these points and have these things support one another to build into each other to then help promote it again.
Yeah, I think you talked about kind of, it's being no secret, but it's like, I feel like it's one of those things we kind of like take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always important just to like, honestly, like state that. It's
yes.
just like, yeah, this is the billboard. This is the walking billboard for the work.
Mm-hmm.
With these interviews, again, I want to be respectful of your time.
No, you good, bro.
But yeah, one of the things I ask everyone at the end is just like, what's something that you're not working on that's inspiring you in the world of art? Although I'm going to constrain it because I got Klyph in the building, and I need it to be hip hop related.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, what's something right now that's just like, you just randomly think about on like a Wednesday?
I mean, in terms of hip hop, I think I don't want to use the word resurgence, but I think we're getting to see more of a celebration of the excellence in creativity. I think we're getting to see a greater celebration on a grander scale of lyricism in terms of creativity. I think we are getting to see, this year with it being the 50th anniversary, we're getting to see a celebration of some of the OGs, which I think is very, very important, bro. When I think about the world in general, and I'm going to bring it back to hip hop, but when I think about the world in general, in my opinion, there are two groups of individuals who are very underserved and who become a bit disposable. One is those who suffer from mental illness, and the second is our older generations. I think those are two groups that are underserved oftentimes, and we just forget about them. So bringing it back to hip hop, the fact that now we're seeing some of the OGs, we're seeing Slick Rick, we're seeing Big Daddy Kane, we're seeing Rakim, we're seeing these folk being celebrated at this time, doing shows, being on stages, because we're looking back to say, yo, 50 years, man. I remember a time where even on black radio, we were fighting, please play rap music on black radio, and black radio was going, no, we're not playing that. We were saying, just understand that what you see, graffiti, it's not vandalism, it's art. Yeah, there's cardboard on the sidewalk and people are breakdancing, but you can, like, don't be mad about it. Take a moment to celebrate what these individuals are doing. To see now that we're celebrating that as one of, if not the greatest influential art forms on the planet. I think about that through my day to day, but then also to then see, I had an opportunity to do an interview with D1, and to see that D1 is an educator in a major university. To see Jay Rawls celebrating being an educator in a university, to see how hip hop music is part of curriculums now. Those are things that I'm not directly tied into, but I look at that and it is inspiring for the next generation as young people are coming up, to see the power of creativity, of something that once was not only not respected but even pushed to the side, to now to see how beautiful it is and how it can be used for changing lives, bro, in a really real tangible way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that I mentioned Ebro before. You know, like on Hot 97, just
Yes.
because for the 50th anniversary, they've been doing sort of like trying to compile this list of like the 50 greatest songs.
Right.
And it's been interesting. And I'm gonna make a potentially blasphemous confession here.
Okay.
But because like I usually in most of the groups I'm in, I feel like I'm the person who listens to like music from before the generation. I have to be the one who's like, no, like I listen to this. Listen to this.
Right.
I have a friend. I'm not gonna say his name, but I remember I was giving them a ride, and I think I had like Public Enemy on like one of those old iPods.
Yeah.
And he went into like the full like Riley Freeman from the Boondocks, like no, don't play that old like.
Right.
And like it sticks with me, but on the flip side though, I think about the way people of a certain generation talk about Houdini.
Yes.
And like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't like. I'd heard Freaks Come Out at Night and Friends. You know, I knew those.
Right.
Like but I was like, maybe I just had to be there. But then on this on one of their Ebro like segments, they just play 5 minutes of funk.
Oh, bro.
It's like that was literally like the first time I had actually, you know, I've heard God knows how many songs that have like referenced that because it's a multitude. But like I heard that for the first time and I was like, oh, like I think this is just a life-changing experience.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So like, yeah, that's what I love about this time, especially like this, 50th anniversary celebration, just like creating those moments, even for someone like me who's like, I feel like I try and broaden myself out and listen to sort of like older music. But like I'm having those moments.
Yeah,
you know?
bro. Yeah. Well, and it's funny, and that's one of the things that I do love about it, man. Like even someone like myself, who I've been on the planet for a minute, I can still get introduced to new pieces of art that maybe was released, you know, years ago, but was from a region that I wasn't in, or for whatever reason I hadn't tapped in. And then it gives you an opportunity to go down that rabbit hole and really look at. You can just find so much good music. And I love what you said about, you know, celebrating the time when you'd sit on the floor and just listen to the same song over and over and over again, put on some headphones. You know, it was one of the great scenes from Straight Outta Compton movie with Dre on the, like, I resonate with that, you know what I mean? Where you would just sit and listen to these songs. And I was talking to my wife earlier and she would talk about, she would record a song off the radio and then sit and write out the lyrics because you, like, that's what you had to you had access to at that point. And that's the music that lasts forever, bro, you know?
Yeah. I mean that's a perfect place to wrap.
Word.
DJ Klyph, again, thank you.
Oh man,
thank you for taking the time today. Like you said, with the work you do, giving people time to sit with the art, and I just appreciate you, you know, giving me a chance and giving us a chance. Whoever's viewing this, kind of just sit with what you do because, you know, it's prolific and it's important.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on your platform. I appreciate the work that you do in providing platforms for people to come through and share in art and as well as in like real community work that you do. You are to be celebrated, man. And you know, just thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.